Hey guys, welcome. I'm Daniel, aka Nezto, and today I'm breaking down my bootleg of Black Fingernails Redwine. So, Black Fingernails Redwine was an old rock track made by the Aussie rock band Eskimo Joe, and it was kind of always one of my favorites in my childhood. I listened to it all the time. To be honest, it probably got number one on my Spotify Wrapped a few too many times. But yeah, here's kind of how it goes. Fingers crossed, copyright doesn't get me for this, but we'll see. Black fingernails, red wine. I wanna make you all mine. Now it's kind of got that kind of darkish tone because it is written, I'm pretty sure in a Dorian key. I could be wrong, but you guys will correct me in the comments if that's the case. But yeah, it's kind of got this dark tone and it's got that guitar kind of, if I play it again, it's got that guitar chugging along, which I thought, you know what, if you put a massive kick drum with it and some rumble, it'd probably sound pretty techy. So this is kind of where the initial idea began for the track. So here's my bootleg of the track. I made it a hard techno remix, about 145 BPM, and here's just the build up going into the final drop. Now, this remix, I'm going to be releasing it on SoundCloud this Friday. So if you're interested, remember to follow me on there so you'll be there the second it drops. Now, before we break down the track, I just want to go over why exactly you would make a bootleg. Because obviously, kind of the one caveat with a bootleg is that you can't upload it to every platform. Pretty much your bootleg kind of has to live on SoundCloud or YouTube, although they are kind of getting stricter on YouTube in regards to bootlegs. But yeah, pretty much the reasons you would want to make a bootleg. One is if you're a DJ like me, obviously you want to differentiate yourself in your set, you want to bring something new to the table. If you have bootlegs, your sets are going to be unique because you're playing other people's songs, but it's uniquely you in a way. All right, another reason why you would want to make a bootleg is occasionally they can blow up, a record label can recognize it, and you can get an official remix from it. An example of this is Miss You by Southstar, which was originally a track Southstar uploaded to SoundCloud. He did do the sneaky and put it on other streaming platforms after it started to gain traction on TikTok, I think it was. But yeah, it then became an official remix once I think Sony Music got a hold of it, or it might have been Universal. So yeah, that's like another reason. So another artist whose kind of career got propelled by bootlegs was Cream. Now, Cream creates bootlegs and mashups that are uploaded to SoundCloud, and they're a duo that kind of they kind of took off because of these bootlegs as such. They gained obviously popularity, and then from there, the streams from the bootlegs and stuff eventually went to their original songs, and they're now touring around the world playing places like Printworks from initially their bootlegs and also being supported by their original tracks. Now, I start kind of with my philosophy of bootlegs. For me, I like to kind of use a lot of loops in my bootlegs. This isn't necessarily a bad thing because I find it speeds up kind of the process of everything coming together. And with bootlegs, unlike your original tracks, you kind of have a bit more leeway in regard to obviously like labels aren't really gonna be looking at them like they do with your original tracks. So you have this kind of leeway where you don't have to be 100% perfect. And that's why I kind of use loops because I see with bootlegs, you kind of want it to come together quickly as opposed to being like 100% of quality, which I'm not saying loops downgrade the quality. It's just obviously creatively you are a bit more limited using loops. Now, I'll first play the initial drums. Since this track, I started making this track about 8 months ago, and I got it all together, all finished, but I wasn't happy with it. I never released it, and it kind of stayed on my hard drive for ages until I think it was New Year's last year. I kind of started tinkering with it again, and it became the track it is today. But these were the initial drums I had. They're a bit embarrassing, but I'll show it anyway because it is the creative process. Just a warning too, the Ableton quantize hasn't been too nice on these since the initial track was made on another computer, so they do sound a bit off, but you'll get the gist of it. So yeah, we went from them to the new drums now, which I'll play you a snippet from the drop. Yeah, a little bit better, hey. So I'll start with the kick and bass. Well, yeah, kind of just a kick because the bass is just a rumble, but you know. So here we are. Now on this kick and bass channel, pretty simple. I've just got decapitator. Not really too much, but on the beefy preset, so it's adding just more to the sound. I'm cutting this area because it was just mud. It was destroying the mix. And on the kick, nothing. This rumble is just a splice loop that I took, and I only like the low end of it, so I only kept that, and that it's like the low end with a cut at 25 hertz. More decapitator on it, just so it's obviously more apparent in the mix. Same preset, and then the high rumble, which there's a good YouTuber who goes by Underdog. He's did a tutorial on how to make rumbles, and I kind of based this rumble on that tutorial. I'll link it up now. So this high rumble is coming directly from this kick, and it's just got a bunch of effects on it, saturated pretty heavily, obviously auto filtered, so it's not got all the, so it's just got the lows. I mean, it's not got them kind of crispy, distorted highs. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the kick and bass. Now, these, like I said before, how with bootlegs, I kind of rely more on loops. These are a lot of loops that I just went through Splice for a few hours and just got a few that they all work together and they kind of form a big call and response with each other. And it just, I don't know, I feel like I got the sound pretty down packed for these techno drums. Which I'm being honest, a lot of the sound for the techno drums really come from them hi hats and just having that crispy high end, and also the energy of them too, just constantly banging. So with these also, I did since they're loops from Splice, genuinely they're pretty good quality. I didn't feel really the need to add too much to them. There's a reverb here and there, but apart from that, yeah, I felt the sound that was coming through initially was pretty good. So I just EQ'd them. This one, obviously, I boosted the mids a little bit. This one, I boosted the highs a little bit, just fitting them all like a jigsaw so they're all a cohesive piece. All right, now after the drum bass, here I've just got Decapitator, probably killing it. Yeah, lots of drive on that one. On the T style, I found that was the best one for this. Genuinely, when I'm doing like putting saturation on my drum bus, I like to just choose a random preset here. Genuinely, always turn down the mix or else it destroys it, and then just go through these different styles until I find one that I think fits the track. And then glue compressor, absolutely hammering it. I learned kind of how to do glue compression on your drums to make them smack from Disclosure. I'll link the video to that. Go watch them. They definitely know a lot more than me on this subject. Endless Smile, obviously that's just for the build-ups to make it all big, and then obviously cutting it out at the drop so it's just not a reverbed muddy mess. And then this EQ is just activated on the build-ups just to remove the subs until the drop comes in when it's obviously turned off. So I'm not going to talk about the Sims too long since some of it is just splice loops like this one, or they're audio that's been bounced from a synthesizer. Since I was making this track initially on my old laptop, which was nearing the end of its days when I had to constantly just bounce stuff out to audio because if I used too many synthesizers, the projects would just lag and not work. And then pretty much all the effects that are on these are just stuff that activates during the build ups, which like pitch shifter, I'll have that coming up, so it's pitching up until the drop where it stops. Decapitator I have on everything to various degrees just to get that beefy sound, but don't overdo saturation. It's a very easy thing to do and get carried away with. Boosting this mid area I decided for this synth because it just lacked it there. And then obviously Endless Smile on the build up. Now for the effects. Now pretty much I just did generic snare build and riser, normie I know. But with my risers I like to do something like this. I'll play it now. You'll see that I automate the rate and I automate the amount. So it just goes up and it's hard to explain, but it kind of just whistles out kind of in a way. And it always just works for every track. I recommend if your white noise just isn't working in your build, just try that. 9 times out of 10, it will work. All right, so now onto the vocals and the vocal chain. So I'll play the vocal just on its own. While making the initial idea of the track with the kick and the rumble, I thought that for the vocals, just playing it initially, just like the verse and chorus with no like chops and whatever, it wasn't working. So I knew I had to just take particular sections of the vocals I like and just run with that. Now, I'll like to add to these vocals. How I managed to extract them was something called Vocal Remover 5. I recommend downloading it. It's a free software that you put pretty much any audio into it, any song, and it will spew out either an instrumental or a vocal that needs very little processing because most of the time it's genuinely pretty well done. This one, there was a bit of it that had like artifacts and stuff, which I got rid of using EQs, or if the section was just too artifacty, I didn't use it at all in all these chops. Alright, so the vocal processing now. So I use little alter boy formants and I shift it going even lower at the build up and then coming back to its initial position of -5 at the drop. It just, it adds that kind of darker tone I wanted to go for with this remix. Silk is next. Silk, if I'm being honest, is Poor Man's Soothe. I'm using this because I gotta say vocal processing is probably my weakest point since I haven't done too much works with like collaborators or with vocalists, so yeah, mixing it, I'm not the best, so I just kind of put presets on and hope for the best if I'm being completely honest. But yeah, I just have to remove the mud preset on it because if I'm being honest, when you extract vocals using a program that's like AI, it can still kind of keep some of the resonant instrumental frequencies. So I just use this to try and minimize them as much as I can. And then we've got vocal synth that just kind of makes it a little bit robotic, as to say. Delay, obviously, give it some space. All right, EQ here, just like cutting out the lows. And then beat repeat, which comes on not very often, which comes on during the build up and then drops out at the drop and every other part of the track. All right, now here's the drop synth. So pretty much what this is doing, it's just a saw wave. It's got a pattern like this initially for the build up with automation such as the filter and yeah, it goes like this. So this is the one synth that's working. Unfortunately, I can't get my serum up at the moment for whatever reason, but you can still hear it. So this thing I pretty much have just doing a rhythm before the drop, and then it does kind of a throw thing onto what note is that? Onto the third, and then it will come back down again. So it's better I just show you than explaining it. that bit there, just the throw. And before the drop, it sounds pretty effective. So yeah, that's that done. Final thing I'd like to add is I don't want to talk too much about this master because it is my temporary master. I just wanted this to be kind of track ready so I could play it out in a set, and that's why it's got this temporary master on it. Um, the one thing I wanted to talk about in the master is utility. Now, this is a handy tip I learned that during your build ups, it's okay as long as it's not too drastic to lower your dB amount. So in this case, it's -3. I've got it. It probably -2 would be best, but in this case, I just did -3. Coming into the build up, obviously it's quieter, and then the drop, it's back to 0 dB again, and it's back to loud, and that's what you want just to create that contrast. And I'll show it with span for the example. But yeah, I'd like to finish on span. Um, I use this all the time just to like level out my mixes, see if a sound will hit or not. And I'll play it during the drop just so you can see that my number one tip with this is to balance your highs, balance your lows so they're hitting at about the same, and your mix will pretty much always sound balanced. You see that the highs and the lows were hitting about the same. In this regard, though, the low peak is like a few dB higher. That's because we're making hard techno in this case, and I did want the bass to be a bit more apparent, obviously, when in clubs and whatever, you want that big pumping bass sound, and that's why I did that. Span's great. I recommend when in doubt, just use Span, look at it. It will make your mixes so much better and professional sounding just because you've got kind of that visual to go off. So you notice how it's slightly quieter coming into obviously the build up, and then the drop, all that loudness just comes back. So I'll just play the track one more time with it all together. And yeah, that's about it for me. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you at least learnt something. And remember to like and subscribe. I'll be uploading more of these once I start releasing my own original tracks. Once I do more bootlegs, I'll obviously go through them. I'll make a video saying like kind of how I go through my process of writing bootlegs just to help you guys. And if you guys have any recommendations you think that will help you, just let me know in the comments. Bye guys.